to really hear Amonge's story and to allow for as many questions and comments and insights from the rest of the group. So we don't, I don't want to be stingy with that because, we don't have speakers all the time. So let's take full advantage of having Amonge here with us. So with that, I am going to invite Amonge to share her story with us. And as I said, and as you are aware, she is, a young, I'll call her a young entrepreneur, a young creative. So don't you dare say you're not creative, Amonge. She is the creator and founder of an initiative called Blackboard. In her talk, I believe Amonge will tell us a little bit more about that. But really what we also are hoping to hear is, Amonge, how did you navigate your way through bringing Blackboard to life? Who were the people that you had to engage with, and what were you selling in a sense that they had to buy, and how did you make them buy into it? So Amonge, please, we're all looking forward to it. Step into the circle and share your story with us.
Hi everyone. Like my Batu shared, my name's Amonge. I just want to check that everyone can hear me, just like thumbs up or anything, just to make sure that cool.
Yay! Yay! Can we give
cool.
Amonge a yay? Yay!
Okay, cool. I'll just jump into it, and I kind of just speaking a lot to what my Batu has shared. I want to share my story with you, but I think there's really no formula to this whole leadership thing. I think it's everybody's personal journey that you go through. So I'm sharing this with you, not to say this is how I did it, this is how you succeed, to say this is how I went about it, and hopefully it can save you some trouble, or you know what I mean, like you can take lessons from that. So yeah. I think right now I think I just want to focus on two major points in my life that were big negotiations, but really had an effect on the way in which I interacted with the world around me, in terms of a personal capacity, in terms of, the way I ran my organization. These two negotiations, I could say, really did do a lot in terms of shifting my thinking. So the first one was when I was about 15 years old. And I say that it's the first one, but it's really not. We negotiate every day of our lives, because negotiation is essentially making something happen through discussion or through persuasion, etc. So, I mean, we've been negotiating since we were children. When a child wants you to do something, wants you to change their diaper, wants you to feed them, they cry. That's their way of communicating. So, I mean, negotiation has been a part of our lives for a really, really long time. And I don't want you to think that it's only something that you're going to start doing when. Like, it's something that you should be practicing very actively right now in whatever space that you can. So I say it's the first, but I say that because it was the first time I was actually very, very aware of the fact that I was negotiating. So I was 15 years old at the time, and just doing a lot of reflection around my personal experience growing up in Joburg. And I honestly think I wasn't very happy. We're supposed to be like this whole born free generation, and I wasn't really comfortable with that idea. An environment where I'm not supposed to speak my mother tongue, I'm not allowed to wear my hair the way that it naturally grows out of my head. And I know these things sound like small things, but they really shaped the way in which I valued my identity, a massive part of my identity, my Blackness, my Africanness. And I wasn't really happy with the fact that, the system that I was in terms of, my schooling environment, really made an effort to not prioritize that. And it really shaped the way I was thinking, and I wasn't really happy with this. So as I was just speaking with my peers, I'm just realizing that this is not just me. Young people all across the world Africans specifically are making changes to themselves and kind of shifting who they are in an attempt to fit into a norm or a mold or a culture that isn't our own. And I just thought, we're in South Africa, we're on our turf. This is our territory, so to speak, but we're still playing by someone else's rules. So that's kind of how the concept of Blackboard Africa came to life. So Blackboard Africa is a nonprofit company that is all about making sure young people have access to leadership and mentorship. But we're also really about giving new direction to young people through these fundamental knowledge around identity and self, but through the training and the mentorship, etc. So I just thought about how I could do that, and at the time, it was starting an Instagram page. It was a very small step, not a small step. Let me not reduce it, but it was a very scary step, but social media is kind of my realm. It's where we as young people we know, we understand, we work and operate in that space all the time. So I just thought, hey, this is my resource, this is my opportunity to kind of push forward into something that I know and really, really understand. So we started with an Instagram page, and young people just kept on writing in, their stories and just their experiences growing up and kind of what challenges they've been facing. And they did that through different articles. They did poetry, people did photography. It was really, really all about creative expression. So that was really incredible. But then we kind of started to move into a space of focusing on leadership. So yes, identity is essential in terms of figuring out who you are as a person. And if you don't know who that is, then your ability or your capacity to lead is a little bit hindered. So that's a major starting point. But I think we're moving into the phase where we really wanted to develop people in terms of those leadership skills. So we wanted to do our first event, and that was a massive headache because I was 15 and I was running it with my cousin, who's I think 22. And, when you're thinking around negotiating, and like I said, this is the first time I really was like aware of the fact that I was negotiating, you have to be very, very intentional. So first of all, you've got to know who you're negotiating to, like who are you talking to? And secondly, you need to find a common thread between yourself and the person you're negotiating with. So I'll make a silly example of like when I was in high school, I would always ask my mom to like go out with my friends. But the way I did that was I would always be like, hey mom, how's your friend Julie? Like, is she okay? How are her kids? And just when she starts to think, oh no, how are my friends? She asked me about my friends. And then I'm like, oh, well, also, can I please go out? So I think you find a way to connect with people because that's how they're actually going to listen. So yeah, I think we identified that for our very first event, the three sort of people that we wanted to have our conversation with was firstly our parents, because we had no money, like literally nothing. So I mean, we needed their support and their support of us in this journey of ours. And then secondly, our partners, because as much as my parents really did give so much, there's certain things that, we just could not afford, venue, food, etc. So you need to find partners. But even that, we could have pulled together a beautiful event, but if we had no participants, there would have really been nothing there. So it was about our parents, our partners, and our friends, and finding the common thread between all of those people that would make them want to be in this space, and also not just want to be in the space, but recognize why a space like this is important. And it was crazy because the feedback from that first event was just absolutely through the roof, and we were just overwhelmed. I think I knew that, we were creating the space because it was something that I wanted, something that I needed, but I had no idea the ways in which it could start to affect other people. So yeah, that was crazy amazing. And just going on from that, we kept on doing our different programs. We got new partners and bigger and better partners, not better partners, all of our partners were incredible. But I just think we really started to grow, and a lot more people started to identify with our vision. But like I said, you need to be very, very clear from the get-go, you know, what that is, because there was a period in our foundation where, you know, we partnered with people who we might not have partnered with if we could go back, so to speak. I just think if you know your vision and you know your purpose, and you make sure that you do not waver from that, or at least you have people in your life to hold you accountable to that, then I think it's going to be really easy to deter, you know, which way to go, who to partner with, who not to, etc. So yeah, that was my first like negotiation where I was super, super aware of my surroundings and my situation. And then the second one was, yeah. So I was in matric at the time, literally, I think it was a week before my final exams. And I'm sitting and I know I get this email. I know I shouldn't look at it because I'm not supposed to be on a break or whatever, but I'm like, no, let me just look at it now. And it's this email from Black Girls Rock saying that they're inviting me to this roundtable discussion with Michelle Obama. And I think I actually just sat there in silence for like 5 minutes thinking, I had no words. But at the same time, I was very overwhelmed by, I knew it was something that I wanted. And I was like, yes, it has to happen. But I was overwhelmed by kind of the odds. I had no flights, no accommodation. My exams were in a week's time. I mean, it just seemed like a really, really impossible feat. So I went to my parents. My dad straight off the bat said, absolutely not. Just focus on exams, get it out of your head. My mom agreed with him in the moment, but then she actually pulled me to the side afterwards and was like, you definitely have to go. We have to make this happen. And I think she really helped me. And like I said, it's really important to have people in your life who are kind of going to be your support structure, because when I got those first no's from my dad, I was like, okay, it's done. There's no reason to tell anybody. There's no reason to even talk about it because it's not going to happen. I should really just give up on it. But then when my mom came up to me and she was like, it's insane to give up an opportunity like this. I mean, how many people get to sit in a table with Michelle Obama? Like, how can we have to make this happen? And it actually happened by a fluke that I told one of my friends and he told his dad, and his company ended up sponsoring my trip to the US, so that I can be a part of that discussion. And I think at this time, I was doing a lot of traveling. I was doing a lot of representing Blackboard Africa. I was attending a lot of leadership programs to upskill our program as well. But honestly, I was really, really excited about how my CV was growing. I was like, ooh, all these ticks, these balances, these checks, like, yes, I love it. It's great. And then I got there and Michelle Obama basically said, take away all the pens, the papers. I mean, we had questions and all of this stuff, and we weren't allowed to bring any of our notepads, our phones, nothing into the conversation. She just wanted to have a conversation with us. And she was like, you know, I value you as individuals, as, you know, as people, as beings. So I just want to have a conversation. I want to have an interaction with you. And for me, that was a really game-changing moment. Not to say that I didn't value myself, but honestly, if somebody said outside of Blackboard, outside of, you know, your good academics, outside of everything else, what do you, Amonge Sinxote, bring to the table? I had no answer for you because all my answers were attached to my accolades, if that made sense. So to hear that from Michelle Obama, I thought, whoa, there's something that I'm missing here. There's really something that I'm missing here. And the thing that made me a little bit sad was, are there not other people feeling this way? And how many girls get the opportunity to, you know, go halfway across the world and hear it from Michelle Obama's mouth that you're valuable? I mean, if you don't, then are you sat there thinking, you know, that you're not bringing any individual value to the world? And also, when you're thinking around negotiations, it's such a vital thing, because it's great to know what other people have to offer you, but you've got to know what you have to offer them. And I think that was a game changer. You know, you've got to know what you're bringing to the table, because if you don't see value in yourself, no one else will see value in you. So that was a really big shift, I think, in my story, in how I chose to run my organization as well. So, I mean, like I said, you know, all these travels, all these different engagements, they were really, you know, looking good for my CV. But I think after that happened, I started to think, no girl should have to travel across the world to hear that they're valuable, you know. With Blackboard Africa and everything that I did, I wanted to make sure that those sentiments and those words of encouragement, you know, that platform to see value in yourself is something that is available in your own environment. So you don't have to step out of it to see that. You know, you should be able to kind of get that affirmation, because I know, you know, we're not all from the same circumstances. I was lucky enough to have, you know, very supportive parents, but, you know, everyone has different circumstances. And I think it's really important that you do have a space that, or a platform, or for people who are going to be like-minded and kind of carry you through in that way. We started this program called Pass the Baton. And essentially it's all around the metaphor of a relay race. Like, you know, we're all in this together. We all have our leg to run. We all have our part to run, and we've got to go hard. But at the same time, when it comes your time to pass it on and to share that information and to give that to someone else, you've also have to let go. Otherwise, we'll never get there in the end. So yeah, I think that's kind of been my story around negotiation, and how it's taught me a lot about myself and about how I should be interacting with the world. So yeah, that's me.
Wow. That's
Unmute and give her.
That's the first thing that came to mind.
Do flowers this way. This from the East Africans.
This is like
Amonge, thank you so very much. My heart is so full right now, just listening to you, and I could selfishly hug you all to myself the entire day. But this is not about, you know, me, and I've been lucky with Rita to have a bit of a chat with you. I invited all of us, mentors and mentees, and I gather, you know, your story was so compelling. There's not one single person who wanted their fingers on their keyboard anywhere, even though the invitation was for people to, you know, put their comments and questions and insights as you were talking to us. And so I'm really now in this time, you know, I think Amonge, you have what, about 15, 20 more minutes with us?
Yeah.
Ladies, please, I think an incredible story, amazing story, as Rita says. Please, I don't know, do we have put your hand up on Zoom? We should, we don't.
Yeah,
but maybe if I can hear, even if it's one word that kind of something that happened for you as you listened to Amonge, what might that be? If I can take some comments and questions. Tahira says, awesome story, amazing, says Rita. Kylie, I could see you had video on, so I could see you were like just nodding as much as I was. So something in what you shared, Amonge, has resonated, I think, with everybody here. But this is about all of us. So let's hear your voices. Amonge has, with her very powerful voice, I think, shared her story. And I don't want to go into kind of summarizing what she said before we get those insights that emerged for all of you. What are your thoughts, ladies? Andiswa, I see you there. You want to step in and say something? Please go ahead.
Yes, I have a question for Amonge. Seeing that you're young, like myself, how did you deal with that fear of starting something new? And how did you get that strength to tell people, even people that are way older than you, about your ideas and everything that you are thinking of? How did you work around that?
Thank you for that question. I think I just started to think around my youth being a massive advantage. There are people much, much older than me who aren't very clear on their vision or, on the journey that they're taking. And they realize it when they're 50 and they have responsibilities and children and so much going on. And I think, obviously it's something that I want to succeed, but the stakes are my own. Do you know what I mean? I had no responsibilities. I had no obligations to anyone, so to speak. So me being young meant that I could really play and I could run. And I think what you'll be really surprised to find is that people are looking for young voices that are constructive and insightful. A lot of people tend to generation into, we're the reckless or whatever, but I think to hear a young person come out of our generation, it really excites people. It really, really does. So I think people are eager to listen, but as soon as you get through that door, make sure that you're ready to represent as well. Because when people take a chance on you, it also, not to put pressure on it, but it shapes how they're going to interact with young people going forward. So if I take a chance on this young person and they absolutely disappointed me and they couldn't meet their deadlines and they couldn't do this or they couldn't communicate or they couldn't whatever, then the way that I see it, all young people are, totally just not worth it. But if I do take a chance on a young person and they're diligent and they're hard workers and, they follow through, then I'm going to be more inclined to give more young people a chance. So not to put pressure on it, but it does kind of get bigger than you at some point. So I think, that's how I've been thinking around it, and that's what's helped me.
Thanks for that, Amonge. So here's a question, and there's two questions which are very similar, but the one puts us back into your own home, Amonge. You talked about how, initially your dad said, no way, right? But mom, and as you were talking about your mom, I thought, yay for mothers, right? Yeah. But she kind of put you to the side and said, you're going to do this. So the question that Valerie's asking is, but how did you persuade your dad? And I think for many of us, and particularly in Black families where a father figure is somebody who is to be listened to and obeyed, how did you get your dad on your side without seeming defiant and rude and just not listening to his voice of wisdom? How did you get that right?
That was quite a mountain to climb, I will say. But having my mom on my side really did help. Because she was kind of the voice of reason. I came to him after I had kind of had all the plans in place. Not the plans, so to speak, but to say, this is my plan to make it happen. So when my dad says no, and I really, really want to say yes, I want to show him why yes is the better answer. So I came to him and I said, look, I've got a sponsor for my flights and my accommodation. I came to him and I said, look at my exam timetable. Luckily, it worked out that the trip was 2 days after my last exam. Like, could not believe the luck. So, I came to him and I had my whole story straight. And I also had my grandparents on a live. I probably should, yeah, he wasn't so pleased with that, because I kind of went over his head. But it also does help to have a voice from someone that they respect as well, because my grandparents were like, I mean, she's got it all in order, she's got it all in place, and I don't think it's a bad thing if it's not going to interfere with her studies. And I promise they wouldn't. So yeah, I think that's how I got him to eventually agree.
It's like saying the boss of the boss spoke, right? So you can't say no. So among a few people have noted that, you know, you have such clarity in your insights, and there's, like you said, you know, your vision is quite clear, it's quite compelling. And to your own point, this is something that people, even who are older, struggle with for a long time. You know, I've even joked at times and said, you know, I still talk to 6-year-olds and ask them what they want to do as they get older, because I still haven't figured my own life out. But the question around clarity is this: how did you, and especially at such a young age, how did you know, and this is Kylie's question, how did you know what you wanted to do? How did that clarity of vision, of thought come about for you around Blackboard, and I think just around generally where you find yourself now?
Yeah. I think my parents were really helpful with that, because I think a lot of the time we ask young people, you know, what do you want to be? And that's a great question. But my parents always ask me, what do I want to do? Because they know that, you know, not that who you are changes, but I think different experiences affect you differently. And, you know, you change your mind, you go through swerves and curves in your life. So, you know, it's not necessarily on deciding who you want to be after, you know, you're in matric. That's not necessarily the case, but what do you want to do? What do you want to do with your life? And I honestly didn't know until I was already doing it. So after we had started Blackboard Africa, I really, really understood how important it was to me to see young people being uplifted and being developed. And I just thought, this is it. This is what I want to do with my life. I thought I wanted to do drama. I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. I mean, I just thought all these crazy things. Not that they're crazy, but for me, once I knew what I wanted to do, there was absolutely no other path. So, I mean, just try things as well. And I think sometimes we really put pressure on people to be like, know everything when you're done with matric, and that's just not the case. So I know what I want to do in terms of, you know, making sure that young people are uplifted, but I also struggled with choosing my subjects and varsity. I mean, so it's really a journey, and it's okay to not know. It's really, really, really okay to not know. But I think trying different things and testing out different methods or different, you know, go intern somewhere, and not even intern, but just say, please, can I just shadow for a day, and kind of getting a look into some of the things that you want to do, so that you know what you're kind of signing up for. And I think once you know that core of what you want to do, then I think everything starts to fall in line.
I think what you just said reminds me of a quote, and I think it's Martin Luther King Jr., who said, you know, you don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step, right? And then you figure it out as you go along. That's what to me sounded like. And we get so stuck in going, I need to have all the answers. You don't. You have to have that seed and then see how it grows. Now, guys, I want to invite the voices of the mentees into the space. Amonge is a peer, she is a young person, as she says, you know, you still kind of finding your way, you know at heart, this is me, this is the thing that I'm passionate about, but it keeps evolving and changing. So I want to hear your voices, mentees. Amonge is here. I know she would love to engage with you also. It might not be face to face, but I know for sure it will be voice to voice and certainly heart to heart. So any one of the mentees perhaps who wants to step in and ask a question, offer a comment, something that stood out for you as Amonge was sharing, or something of your own journey that you want to share with Amonge that kind of meets her story somewhere along the way. Any thoughts as we move along and do that? So Amonge, as perhaps, you know, some of the mentees think up what their questions might be, I want to reference what we will be talking about later, which is this U framework that Rita mentioned to you in our call the other day. And it talks around understanding. So it's an acronym, YOU. U is about yourself, you know, understanding what you stand for. O is about, you know, understanding where I am really serving others. And then the last U hones in on the actual understanding itself, understanding my environment, understanding others. In your story, you talked about bringing your parents along. You talked about bringing partners along, and things kind of just growing from there, people who supported you, even people who supported you from unexpected places, including your friend's dad, who then spoke to people at his company and so on. What is key for you in making sure that you bring people along with you as you evolve? Because it's easy to say you must understand people. What does that mean in very real terms? How do you make that connection, whether it's been with your partners or the co-founders of Blackboard or anyone else who is part of your story? How did you do that?
I think I'm quite a perfectionist. So, I mean, in my schoolwork, I dreaded group work, just because I couldn't have full control of, you know, what was happening. But I think going into the space of the work that I was doing, I really started to understand that nothing is achieved by one person. So you always hear this story, like one man can change the world or whatever, but that's honestly not true. It's just not. You need people, and people need you. So like I said, as much as, you know, you recognize value in other people and what they bring to the table for you, but you've got to know what you bring to the table as well. But it's got to be a collaboration. Nothing, and I mean nothing, moves without a collective. So I mean, for me, it was my parents and my family, but it may not be for you. I was lucky enough to have those people kind of handed to me, so to speak. But, you know, you can find your own people, friends, just like-minded people. That was really, really important, just for my journey, in terms of understanding that it just made everything much, much easier, because I know I couldn't do it alone. So I didn't try to, and I didn't frustrate myself by trying to do that.
So I think you touched on something we've said before in this mentorship circle, which is know your village, right? And if you don't know your village, what I'm really learning from you and taking from you is create that village. Find the people who will stand with you and who will hold you up as you take up space. Yeah. Now, Amonge, you've gotten a question was asked here by Ntebogang, who is one of our mentees. Where do you get your motivation? And I think I want to stretch that question a little bit, is where do you get your motivation as a young person? Yes, you are running Blackboard, and you said on top of that, you've started sort of, I'm not sure if it's an initiative within the initiative of, you know, pass the baton, but you are Amonge, you're a young person with a life of your own, right? You are changing, you are learning, you are growing, you've got schoolwork, you've got, you know, the parentals who want this, you've got, how do you keep it all together and stay not just afloat, but really fired up to keep moving?
Yeah, I mean, this is a two kind of folded question for me, because I think I know where I'm pushing it from, and I know how important this is to me. So it kind of becomes bigger than me. And in that sense, it's pretty easy for me to prioritize it, because I know how important it is. I know when I enter a room, I can't afford to hesitate. I can't afford to stutter, because I really, 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 this is something that I believe in, and this is something that is one of my deepest kind of passions, so to speak. But at the same time, I'm just a person. So I know I presented a story that, you know, is very true. But I think right now where I'm at, COVID hit me quite hard in terms of Blackboard. We got a great partnership, but they wanted a lot of structure from us. I mean, we kind of basically had to move from being, you know, this 3-man organization to a proper NPC that can handle a corporate sponsor, which was just a massive shift for me. And then in the midst of that, I was doing second year, and then COVID happened. So, I mean, I really, sometimes I can't. And, you know, you gotta take that space up for yourself. I know I had a conversation with my team, and I said, I need a week. Like, don't call me, don't talk to me. Obviously I can't do that with school because, you know, they don't answer to me. But to the rest of my team, I just said, right now I just need a week to refresh myself. So I mean, it was a little bit before COVID, so I could still go see my friends, and I just went out to lunch, and, you know, I did the little things that really just kind of relax me, taking long baths, and I just tried to relax, because at the end of the day, I know I'm not going to be productive if I'm not focused, if I don't have a clear head, if I'm not prepared for what I'm going to do that day, or what I'm going to do that week or that year, etc. So I think one way that I've been able to manage, or to kind of balance everything, is just knowing when I need a break, and taking that break, and allowing myself to take that break. Yeah.
So Amonge, as we wrap up, I think the question that I want to ask is around, you know, this whole notion of influencers, and I'm speaking from the point of view of a Gen Xer, right? Because the minute I hear young people go influencer, I'm thinking, okay, another Kardashian, another whoever the influencers are. I have, you know, a teenager and a preteen who go on and on about YouTube and the influencers on there, and it's a whole other world. But I think you've given such a wonderful spin to the idea of what influence is about moving people in a particular direction. Here you are a young person, a young woman, who has taken up space, but you spoke so very intently around the idea of know your worth, right? My work is not my value. My work is not my worth. I think that's what Michelle Obama was trying to get you guys, you know, as young people, to think about. You are so much more than just the work you put out in the world. What would you say to our mentors? Because again, I think it's such an easy thing to say to people: be confident, you know, you are beautiful, you bring so much into the world. But unless the person themselves believes, you know, the idea of I am worthy, it doesn't matter how beautiful everybody else tells them they are, and how, you know, how appreciated they are. How do you stay grounded in who you are as Amonge? There's value that you hold, the space that you take up in the world, where you say, I deserve to be here, because that's what you're saying. That's what your voice says to me. I deserve to be here. And you say it with clarity, yes, with confidence, but with a certain humility all at once. What do you say to these mentees who are, a few of them around the same age group as you, maybe a few younger, but you are all young people? How do you remain grounded in who you are, no matter what is happening all around you?
Yeah. That's a hard one, because, you know, at the end of the day, I am a young girl, you know, growing up in the social media pressure. It's hard. And, you know, there's days that I wake up and I don't feel beautiful, or I don't feel smart, or I don't feel, you know, empowered. But I think I know I keep giving a lot of, you know, credit to my parents, but they're a massive, you know, they're a massive part of my life, and the way that I think, and the way that, you know, I am. But they've always just really push me to be happy with my choices and be happy with myself, maybe to their own detriment, because I know that I'm so stubborn. But I don't know, just I think being confident is not something you just wake up and you are. I'll be honest, I hated high school. Not that I hated high school, but it just was not the fondest memories of my life. And I just thought, I'm going to get to varsity and I'm not going to care what everybody thinks. And I'm going to grow up and all of my doubts and all of my worries are just going to fall behind me. And varsity came and, you know, that didn't happen. Being confident is something that, you know, you've got to work at. It's kind of like a muscle that you've got to exercise. So basically what I was doing is saying, I've never gymmed a day in my life, but I'm going to go run a 10K marathon. That's not how it works. You know, it's something that you have to exercise. So just try it. You know, one thing that I don't know, that's just your decision. So I know that I really like to do crazy hairstyles, and a lot of my friends and a lot of my teachers were not very happy with it, but those little decisions that I was happy with, and I was happy so much so that I was able to handle any criticisms that would come my way. That was a practice. That was me exercising that muscle. So just walk into a room and say, you know, I really care nothing for what anybody has to say about me or what I look like or this or that. Do that one day in one class in one session. Just don't pay any mind to what people might be thinking about you. And then do it again the next day and the next day and the next day. And soon you'll start to see, you know, yeah, you've just got to do you. And you're the only you in the world. I mean, I don't think we recognize how valuable that is. I know people, a lot of the time, my teachers tried to explain it to me using science. Like, you know, the miracle that it is that you are exactly who you are. It's honestly a miracle. So, I mean, you could have been anybody else, but you're you. So walk in that, love that, embrace that. Yeah.
Wow. So talking about confidence and being in a room and saying what you need to say and exercising that muscle. Mentees, I'm inviting you one more time. This is your space. And I know somebody might go, oh, I'm a little bit shy. And Amonge has just said it right now. Confidence is about challenging yourself, to have your voice heard, to put that into practice. Even if you think, I just want to say one word to her, or I just want to ask this question. I am curious about this, or I want to make this comment, whatever it might be. We literally have 5 minutes left with Amonge. So please, your space, your voice. Can I get somebody who hasn't yet shared? Andiswa asked a question earlier on. I'm seeing some comments from some of the mentees. Kylie, your question, but I want you to ask the question. You are curious about whether Amonge has any other goals that she has set, but let the question come from you. Please, Kylie, step into the circle with Amonge and let's hear it from you.
So I wanted to know, like, what goals do you still have to set? Because, like, even though you're doing this, do you still believe that you want to set more goals?
Yeah, no, for sure. First of all, thank you for your question. Yeah, I mean, setting goals is something that never stops. Like Mabatu said, us growing as individuals is something that never, ever, ever stops. So I have goals till this day. So yes, I've done a lot in terms of Blackboard. There's so much more that I want to do. There's so much I want to do academically. I'm doing my second year at varsity right now, but I want to do my master's. I want to do my master's overseas. So, I mean, there's so many goals that I have for my life that aren't just in terms of what I'm doing or even when I'm studying. I want to have abs and little stuff. So yeah, I set goals every single day. but yeah, it's something that you've got to do because, you know, like I said, we never just stand still. We never finish growing. Like that doesn't happen. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Kylie. So I'm going to take one more question. And in essential, I recognize you that you said what resonated was when Amonge said, you know, value yourself. And you link that to be the change you want to see. Just make that connection for us, even as perhaps you want to pose a question to Amonge. What stood out? What is it in what Amonge said that then popped into your mind, the idea of being